Hello, everyone, and welcome to Stories That Shape Us, the series where we step behind the professional profile and into the personal journey. This is where we explore the moments, mindsets, and milestones that shape the people driving transformation and service excellence across the industries. I'm your host, Stephanie Ward. I am Scopism's SIAM Community Manager, and I'm so glad to have you here with us. Whether you are tuning in for inspiration, insight, or simply to hear from some of the most thoughtful voices in the industry, you're in the right place. Today, I'm honoured to be joined by Global Service Transformation and Management Coach, consultant, facilitator and speaker, and one of our incredible community champions, Ian Clark. And I can't wait for you to hear his story spanning over 25 years in the industry. Ian's a face you may have seen in our SIAM in Action Real Stories, Real People podcast, a series that focuses on the strategic and operational impact of SIAM. But this series is something a little different. Stories That Shape Us steps back to explore the people behind the practice. The journeys, pivotal moments, challenges, and the perspectives that shape who they are, professionally and personally. It's about looking back as well as looking forward to understand how our experiences shape the way we work, lead, and grow. So, Ian, welcome.
Thank you, Steph. Thank you for having me. I'm waiting for my little script to start rolling across the screen. So, reading it. Anyway, thank you. I'm looking forward to this.
Great to have you with us. Before we go back, let's start with where you are now. So, what does life look like for you at the moment, and personally, professionally, or otherwise? And maybe what's made you say yes to sharing your story with us today?
Yeah, it's a good question. Where am I now? Well, physically, I'm in South Africa. I've been in South Africa now for 20 years, and I've been working through a company called Fox IT Service Management. We've got one in South Africa, I've got one in the UK. It's basically the vehicle I use to do all my work, coaching, training, consulting, whatever it may be. So yeah, I've been doing that for now 13
Wow.
years in South Africa. Yeah, I know. So, but it doesn't mean I'm kind of grounded to South Africa. I've done a lot of work with clients from various countries around the world, fortunately and luckily, actually, because I think that's shaped a lot of who I am and how I think and what I believe and don't believe. So I think definitely that global experience. But currently, I'm in a bit of flux. I mean, I'm pivoting or pirouetting, I think some people call it. I'm pirouetting into more. I'm definitely focused on SIAM. I'm very much a service management fan. Have been forever. This feels like forever anyway. But yeah, I've always loved SIAM, service integration and management, experience management. I've started to really enjoy that as well. And it's all about, making a difference in whatever form that comes in that particular space. So I am doing that more with groups of people and teams within organizations, not so much ones and twos training kind of thing anymore. And I'm certainly heading into the direction of giving more of my time to committees, communities, to learn as much as share. So, yeah, I'm in a bit of a transition at the minute into more community-based work and working with teams and groups on various SIAM experience management related things,
Nice.
which I'm loving so far.
Good. And we're glad to have you with us because you're great. You've been obviously a champion since last year. And I think you work great with a team, working on different. So we've obviously worked on the other podcasts together. A lot of experience that
Yeah,
you've brought to that as well, working with people outside of the community, which is nice.
absolutely. Yeah, I've really purposely tried to make an effort to get more involved in the community, especially SIAM. ISO 20000 committee I joined recently. I work with APMG as well on an agile committee. So yeah, but SIAM specifically, I've thoroughly enjoyed, and I think a large part of that goes down to the likes of yourself, actually, and Claire and Simon and Michelle. almost the founding fathers, so to speak.
They're great. They are great.
Yeah, I mean, you make it so much fun and interesting that it's difficult not to get drawn in and involved, which, yeah, so I'm loving it
Great.
very
Well,
much
I'm
so.
glad to hear it. And we love having you with us. So, before all of this, then,
Thank you.
and where you're at now, let's rewind back to the beginning for a minute, then. So, what drew you into the space? What actually caught your eye or attention?
Yeah, it's totally by
I've
accident.
never heard
I
that
fell.
before.
Oh, no, of course you've not. But it really was. My father was an accountant, and a very good one actually. And I'm from the Midlands in the UK, near Leicester, a sleepy little village, in Leicestershire. And I hated school. I know it's a strong word. I didn't hate school. I just wasn't a fan of school. I don't. At that day, it was just like I just want to get through my GCSEs, and I did okay. Uh, And then obviously my dad said, "I think you should stay on for a year and do a few more." And I was really into computers. I had a ZX Spectrum and a Commodore 64. I don't know whether you can even remember.
Not
No, yeah.
me. Someone
Anyway,
will. The audience will
no.
resonate.
So guys out there go, "Oh, I had one of those." No, obviously, I used it mainly for games and stuff. But anyway, I had these and I always loved computers and music, and I just wanted to get through school and get out and get working. And I ended up, it's a weird journey. I wanted to be like my dad, an accountant. So I joined Page and Moy in Leicester. I don't know whether they're still around actually, travel agent. Um, in the accounts department. I was the only guy on the floor in the accounts department. So that was the beginning of my lessons into the female psyche, and um I learned a lot. In that. Anyway, so I had a lot of fun there, and then I moved to Midland Bank. God, what was I doing there? It was like in the credit card stuff. Anyway, and that's the first kind of person I bumped into, had a bit of an influence. Not a bit, he had a big influence actually. Richard Armstrong, his name
Mm.
was. He was kind of the manager of an area that I was working in, and he was just incredible as a human being. Um, Yeah, well, obviously we had work to do, but he was innately interested in you as an individual and what you were interested in and what you wanted to get out of work and life. And he was just an incredible guy. And he eventually ended up moving to Manchester, EDS. I think EDS is still around. Yeah, Electronic Data Systems, I think it is, US company. And I think he actually he moved me from Midland Bank, actually, where I was, to EDS. And that's my first kind of interaction with IT. Uh, and I worked on a help desk there. Uh, what we do? We took calls about credit card terminals and stuff. Anyway, that's my first interaction with anything to do with service management, completely by accident. I mean, it was an IT company, but it was very much a banking environment. And he got me down there and set me up in my own place with a few guys, and I thoroughly enjoyed working on that there for a few years. And then I ended up moving to United Friendly, which was an insurance company in Manchester. I think they're now called Royal London, something like that. Anyway, and there was my second very, very influential individual called Peter Hewitt. He he was probably twice my age at the time. I was sitting there in an IT department because I moved to IT, and I was sitting there scratching my head. I remember it vividly, trying to work out what printer to buy or to recommend for something. It's like I didn't know nothing about print. It's a dot matrix printer. I don't know what. Anyway, and I think he just saw me, saw the soul leaving my body or something as I was trying to. And he came over and introduced himself, and he put these little blue books on my desk and said, "Listen, I want you to have a read of these because I think you'll enjoy it." And I'm like, "Okay." Anyway, ITIL version 1 books he put on my desk. And he said, have a read of it and I'll come chat to you in a few days and then see what you think. So anyway, I read through this stuff and it was like, wow, this stuff really resonates with me. It makes sense to me. It's almost like, where's this stuff been? You know, it, you know. Anyway, and I'm reading the book's authors, like, what was it, David Wilden and Vernon Lloyd and, a few of these guys. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, wow, these are smart guys." Anyway, so he comes back to me and says, what do you think? I says, this is incredible. Love it. What is this stuff? No, it's this ITIL stuff, framework, service management. Okay. He said, do you like it? I said, yeah, I think it's fantastic. He said, good, because you're now the new change manager. And I'm like, huh? So anyway, my manager came across and said, anyway, Peter says you want to be the change manager. Yeah, okay. What's that then?
I love this. You really did end up in these things by
No,
accident.
no, I promise you. And I'm sitting there like, okay. So what does that mean? And he says, don't worry, I'll teach you, I'll mentor you. So anyway, you're going to sit there now. People are going to bring you these forms asking to change things, and you've got to sit down and read it. And if you think it's a bit risky or whatever, then come chat to me and we'll, you've got to basically say yes or no and write down in a little book when this change is going to happen. And I'm like, okay. Anyway, so
Who looked at these books?
over the
Was
course,
this just a record or was it to share, or if it was in a book, who was seeing it?
it was apparently the managers looked
Okay.
at this stuff. I mean, I just sat there the whole day and all these guys came in and said, Ian, there's a form, this yellow form. And I'm like, I want to make a change to this network device. And, okay,
Yeah, sure, why not? Sounds great.
that's good. What's your router?
Uh,
I probably, I'm not exaggerating. I was really lost. Anyway, so over I think about a year, I think it was about that. Me and Peter kind of got to know each other, and he really took the time to help and teach, and he literally ignited this interest in this service management thing like you wouldn't believe. I mean, I couldn't get enough of it. It just made so much sense to me how everything should be or could be done. Anyway, so he was actually a consultant working at the insurance company in the IT department, and he was working for a company called Ultracom at the time. And I think it was about, like I said, a year or so later that they actually approached me and said, listen, we're looking for our first junior consultant. Would you be keen to join us? And they were in Reading in London. And I was like, you kidding me? I'd love to. I mean, wow. Okay.
yeah, one opportunity.
And so anyway, yeah, it was unreal actually. So long story short, I did join them as a junior consultant. I think I was like early 20s, somewhere around there. And I like, there's out of your depth, and then there's me.
I think we all feel like that at points,
There's,
though, especially in our early 20s.
absolutely. I mean, I was like I thought I was, yeah, I mean, yeah, early 20s. I was kind of, why me? I mean, I don't think I'm that good or anything. I mean, but he did explain to me, we've got a bunch of very senior guys, and the managers told him we need to find a junior. So everybody was looking for a junior consultant. And so anyway, I went for the interview with a guy called Mike Dawkins, also an incredible guy. He looked after about 20 consultants, Steph. I mean, I'll mention some names now. I mean, these were the big hitters in hindsight. I didn't know it at the time, but Tony Price, Steve Ingle, Vernon Lloyd, David Wilden, Paul Rappaport, the late Paul Rappaport, Dave Johnston. I mean, he's part of the SIAM community.
I see these names floating around.
So, yeah, I mean, these are the guys, you pick up version 2 ITIL books, and these are the guys who wrote the books.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it at the time. These are like, geez, these guys are clever. Oh, yeah.
The best people to learn from, though.
So anyway, oh, well, I think in the service management space, in hindsight, I think I was probably one, if not the most fortunate young man at the time to actually have spent several years being around these guys, learning from these guys, um, who literally wrote the stuff.
And at that age as well, you're
And
just absorbing it all.
I'm like a sponge. I mean, I'm sitting in workshops with Tony Price, who was a complete legend in workshops. I mean, I thought I've grown up to love whiteboards and drawing and, explaining things. And he was a live wire, Tony. I mean, but he was so smart, and the clients loved him, and they dragged me into all these workshops with these guys. Dave Wilden and Vernon Lloyd, I did V2 managers with in the UK in a hotel. I mean, that was just like incredible experience. Anyway, so I kind of landed squarely in the rose bush at that young age in the service management space. And ever since then, I've been involved in service management. And it's all really down to Peter Hewitt, actually, kind of looking at me going, seeing whatever, something
Yeah, believing in you.
that you could do this. You think, are you quite interested? Or I don't know what it was. I never got to ask him. But yeah, it was really thanks to him. And then being around these guys through Ultracomp, who then got bought by Fox IT in the UK back then. And then, yeah, eventually leaving Fox IT to kind of explore my own, doing contract work in the UK. So I'd spent several years up till my late 20s just learning this stuff from probably the best in the industry. So I was incredibly fortunate to have that experience. And I'll never, I think, truly appreciate it fully. Yeah, it's just kind of surreal, actually,
Yeah.
that it happened. Yeah, but yeah, anyway, so that's kind of Richard Armstrong, Peter Hewitt, that army of legends at Ultracom at Fox IT that really got me on the road to this thing I've always loved called service management, which eventually rolled into SIAM, which is, I think, in my opinion, the next evolution of good quality service management. So yeah, anything to do with service management, anything that supports it has always been kind of my real passion and interest. And I've managed to kind of, like I said, learn from probably the best,
Yeah. Nice. And I
actually.
think you hear that quite often. It's about the people throughout the journey as well. It's those who are defining those moments and pivots in your career. So from there then, and obviously the starting ground where you were at and building on that, were there any key moments
Mm.
that maybe changed your approach or how you kind of collaborated or made decisions?
Yeah, I think I mentioned Tony Price already. I remember, it's crazy because it was so long ago, but I remember being in a workshop with Tony and some guys from Yellow Pages. I don't know whether they're still
I think
around
they
even.
are. There used to be the
Yeah, is
advert
there
where you
still the
stood on
yeah,
it, right? To like read.
that's yeah. It was like this big with all the
They're probably
businesses in it.
they're probably
No,
digital now. Probably don't even exist in paper form.
oh yeah. But anyway, that company, the IT guys in Yellow Pages were like incredibly talented. Yeah, again, a young management team, and Tony had them in a workshop. And Tony always had this weird formulas. It's like, okay, we're going to do S equals S minus Q to work out the priorities of the services and what you need to do from a DR. And I'm sitting there like,
But that's worse than an acronym. You go to a new business and everyone's got A, B, C, whatever acronyms there are for anything.
well, oh, he's right. It was acronym heaven, but Tony was incredible with just running workshops and interacting with clients. I mean, and I think he put, without probably he doesn't even know it, but the way I try to interact with clients, he was very attentive, always really listening, really sharp, quick thinker.
Yeah.
And he had this ability to make very complicated things, concepts, very easy to think about and actually unravel and kind of unpack. And he spent, it was like 30 minutes. And now at the end of this 30 minutes, these guys were like, fantastic, love it. And I'm sitting there going, I want to be like him.
Oh, my hero.
I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to be like that. I want to be able to interact with people like that. And from that day on, I I mean, and it's really difficult for, I mean, for young people nowadays to get into a career in a working environment. And, I can talk about that later, maybe the whole way that the system's set up.
Mm.
But nobody ever really knows what they want to do. I don't, very few people. And, from that moment, I like, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. And I was mid-20s,
Mm.
mid to late 20s, actually. And so, yeah, it was that. And ever since then, I've scared to death early on, standing in front of people, running workshops,
Pushed out of your comfort zone.
really, yeah, way out of the comfort zone. But in hindsight, I'm so grateful for the guys who, Rob Young is another one. He pushed me to, no, you'll be fine. You're good at this, and go, do it. And I stood in front, a young kid standing in front of people twice my age, trying to kind of help them. It was like really intimidating and very scary.
Yeah.
But, if you just do it and learn from it and, keep going and work hard. And I mean, that's what those guys taught me. And that's kind of what I believed in,
And
and still do.
yeah, and I think like they say, anything worth going through is challenging, and kind of that feeling afterwards is there's nothing like
Yeah.
it. But at the start of it, you're like, I can't do this, imposter syndrome, this, and
Uh,
yeah, freaking out. But I guess like you've painted this nice picture as well. But has there ever been any points where it's been really challenging? You're like, absolutely not, or it's really taken you off guard, and it's maybe changed, or a massive learning point or turning point from your career in that stage?
oh, look, the things with Tony really got me going on the right route. I mean, yeah, I mean, honestly, Steph, I don't think in my time doing this stuff, which is like you say, from mid-20s to now, which is 25, 26 years, um, there's never been a point where I don't want to do this stuff anymore. Yeah, this is sucks. Or there really hasn't. There's been a few disappointments along the way, as there always are. Like clients not really feeling like they got the value that they wanted. Through to clients that got way more than they thought they were going to get and loved it. And so there's always that's the thing about a career and life, I suppose. It is the roller coaster.
Yeah.
Um,
And managing the
Disappointments.
yeah, I was going to say managing the expectations of people you're working with as well, because those who maybe you say haven't achieved what they wanted to achieve, is that because they understood what was expected? And I guess we all have
Yeah,
lessons and learnings from each experience, but it's good
definitely.
to
And I think that's a big thing for people. And I learned that from the guys at Ultracom, that you will always be learning. You should never not be learning. And I remember one thing that Tony Price said to me, and he said, "You get paid to have an opinion,
mm,
so have one."
yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay, but what if I don't know?" This is a conversation. I said, "But what if I don't know what the topic is?" And he just looked at me and went, "You will have an opinion."
Mm.
And I was like, "Okay." And then I thought about that, and essentially what he was saying is, if you work really hard and put the effort in and learn, you will naturally have an opinion because it's coming from a knowledgeable, informed
Yeah.
place. So it was indirectly saying to me, that's what you have to do to be a consultant. You never stop. You know, People come and ask you, and in many instances, pay you for your opinion.
Mm.
And it better be an informed one and a good one, because if it's not, they're not going to want you to come back again.
And I love this.
He just did it in a typical Tony Price way that I was,
I
what?
I feel like this is something I hear from you lot all the time, is that like you can get a number of consultants in a room and you'll never come out with the same opinions and answers and resolutions, because everyone's got
Nope.
their own version, which is valuable. And
Correct.
having things like that in the community is what we need, because I've shared recently past our second birthday of the community, and Steve was saying about challenging his own SIAM beliefs. I think that's great that
Yeah.
people like yourself that have got all these years of experience, and you're not coming here to just share that with everyone and tell them. You're coming to listen and invite those experiences in for your own like understanding and building
Absolutely.
as well.
100%. Yeah, I think that's, I think it's probably one of the most important traits about anyone who's gonna advise you is, and I know Steve mentioned it, it's that having a knowledgeable, informed opinion that comes from experience, reading, knowledge, information, listening to people. And if you're not prepared to do any of those things, it's hard
Mhm.
and it's a big. So I think to everybody who's looking to start careers like this, that would be my biggest advice, actually, is really just be present
Yeah.
and don't ever think you know everything because it's not possible. It really isn't. You can know a lot about your industry or your topic, and I think that's an important thing as well. Is pick something that you eventually fall into that you love or you really enjoy, and just go for it. Because I think if you patter around in many different areas, you kind of you tread water. Specializing, in my experience, and deeply understanding a particular topic or industry is very, very worthwhile and rewarding
Mm.
in many ways.
And I think, as you
Yeah,
mentioned,
definitely.
it has evolved, and it's probably evolved a lot since you started in it. But is there anything like the changes that have happened that have really influenced the way that you work now?
Um, Good question. Say that again?
You were just talking
Anything
about
that's
the industry evolving, so like any changes that have happened that maybe influenced you in the way that you're working now.
um, yeah, I think technological changes are quite interesting. I'm not gonna even say the word scary because they will always
Hmm.
happen, so you may as well just it's easy to go AI now. Um, I'm still waiting to see what that actually means. It's become extremely useful in many, many ways. Obviously, the amount of information that is out there nowadays for people to consume and read and learn from is huge. A lot of it is potentially garbage, and a lot of it is really good. So trying to sift through this mountains of stuff is a challenge.
It's hard though when you
Um,
say that. Sorry, I
that's
didn't want to interrupt. Carry on your answer.
no, 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 go for it.
I
Go
was
for
just
it.
gonna say because like AI is well, there is more information. It's more accessible because previously maybe we didn't have the opportunity to see everything, but it can make it overwhelming. But I feel like it can also condense it. So you can give it a large
Then
set of information and say like pick through the points that I need to know or things like that. But yeah, I think there's so many different forms. I was at in a workshop last week and they were saying, "Have you used this? Have you used that?" And I'm like, "No, like I've heard of this and maybe that, but that's a whole new world." And you think it's constantly
you
changing.
use Charlie and Bob and Jim, and I know
I'm
these are
lost.
all AI, like, GPTs, and I'm sitting there going, "I've used, what, ChatGPT, I've used a few of them," and the thing that I do love about it, I know it's the hot topic of the day, but it does, at its basic level, help exactly what you said, Steph. You can give it a huge amount of data and then get it to kinda analyze it and summarize and so on and so forth. But what I find really fascinating is its ability to potentially give insight and advice and help with decision making. Um, and I think we've already seen that in some industries. I've read things like basic analysts in big companies potentially. They've got these AI agents doing all the analysis. And then feeding that information to the more senior guys who then have to make the
Mm,
decisions. And then in the medical industry, being able to spot potential big issues, in people's health from a million different, X-rays that they've they've been fed.
yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. It's in the name. It's all intelligence, but it's apparently not real. Artificial. But it's starting to feel more and more real as it evolves. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting. It's going to be an interesting journey, without a doubt. I've actually seen firsthand it's having a big impact in the knowledge kind of industry, training industry.
Mm.
I mean, I've seen, a lot of guys are actually, they're not going on training anymore. They're not consuming these kind of things so much as they used to, because it's all it's all at their fingertips. Give me a summary of this framework, please, and then and there you go. Have a
But
read.
these studies now,
So
like, saying that you're not retaining the information, obviously, it's the same even when we used to
yeah,
have a Google search or a reference, unless you've actually really understood that and put it into a piece of work, you've not grounded yourself in the actual learning. But yeah, I find the studies
yeah,
fascinating for especially the younger
no,
generation
it
in
is.
education as well.
Yeah, I've seen actually kind of pictures of people's brains.
Same.
The ones that use AI.
Yeah,
The
it's
kind of it's
scary.
not hardly work. And I mean, it sounds a bit old school, but if I'm writing things, I want it to come from me.
Mm,
My thoughts, my brain, my words. And it's so tempting to just say, "Oh, write me a concise 500, for a LinkedIn post," as an example. But where's the creative side of that from a humanity perspective?
mm.
Yeah, anyway.
And I was going to
We
say,
could talk all day about.
yeah, and we've got the Real Stories, Real People episode this month, actually, recording this in July, launching it later this month. So it'll be interesting to hear from Neha, Siobhan and Thule on their thoughts on AI and SIAM as well. I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But,
But I think, look, AI stuff is the latest one. But, as we've moved through, I started my career like, I don't know, thin client, dumb greens terminals, which is what people were sitting at, like doing data processing. Then it's come into PCs, client server, mainframes, cloud, et cetera, et cetera. It will never stop.
mm,
So you may as well just go, you know what, it's coming. Let me just embrace it, learn about it, it, and make the best of it rather than push against it and
yeah,
be fearful. Fear is not a good thing.
yeah,
And I would encourage everybody just to lean into it, actually,
yeah,
whatever it may be.
yeah. No, I like that. I think, we can't resist change. It's inevitable, isn't it? It's the only thing that's only constant, as they say.
100% happy.
But yeah. So what about now then? What's driving Ian Clark today? What's exciting about what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm like I kind of implied earlier. I've been in this consulting and education and training industry for many years, and um, late last year I decided that I need to just zone in on something and just focus on that and drive that forward. So that actually is SIAM and experience management are kind of the things that I'm really focusing on now. Like I said, I've got this Fox IT service management that I kind of work through from a company point of view, but um, I'm doing that kind of work through Fox. Like I said, very much focused now on teams and groups of people. I've ran just this year several sessions on SIAM with people and design thinking as an example. So the reason I'm saying this is I used to do a lot of kind of bums on seats training, and I think we've talked about this in the past. And I kind of, I over the years I've always enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong, I do love doing that stuff and interacting with people on that basis. But that kind of part of my world started to feel heavy and a bit admin kind of intense, and I just thought I don't want to focus on that anymore. So it's all about groups, teams of people, SIAM, experience management, anything that supports it, and um, doing a bit of freelancing as well, actually. So as much as I work through Fox, I've got a few conversations going on with clients now about as Ian, don't you want to kind of come and speak for us or represent us in the market, when it comes to things like certain products and services? So I'm looking into that. So I'm kind of going in that direction, um, if that makes sense,
Nice.
as well as all community work. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm becoming more focused on that rather than the general kind of training kind of game,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Uh,
Yeah.
and
But
outside of work,
we'll see.
yeah, I was going to say, because I feel like recently, have you been doing things that are outside of work in terms of community-based focus? Were you green-fingered, planting?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, geez. So yeah, a big side of a part of my life and my wife's kind of life actually is we're very um environmentally aware. So things like, sustainability, recycling, looking after the oceans, forests. So yeah, we did a festival recently where we went down to Cape Town in South Africa with my daughter actually, and we spent a long weekend learning planting trees in the forest. Reforest festival they call it. So yeah, we've been doing a lot of that outside of work. I'm a big fan of EDM. I don't know. Probably a lot of people don't know
You're
this.
throwing an
Electronic
acronym at us,
dance,
Ian. You need to give us some context.
electronic dance music.
Ah,
So things
right, okay.
like
We're on the music.
house music, deep house music. I mean, I spend a lot of time listening to that kind of music and going to those kind of
Yeah.
festivals actually. So my wife and I have a big passion for music and the environment, and we've been doing a lot more of that lately. Big fan of travel. Always have been actually since I was young. Um, Live a life full of experiences is kind of my motto.
Mhm.
So traveling around as many places as we possibly can, to kind of see different parts of this beautiful planet and experience different things is certainly a big part of our personal life, or my personal life anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been getting involved in those kind of things there as well.
And do you travel a lot with
Yeah,
work
and
as well? Do you try and add on to those trips and balance it out a bit for personal?
yeah, I've always, yeah, I mean, I've been very fortunate work-wise. I've traveled a lot of places on this planet, um, and I always try and tag on a few days. Yeah, let's do a week, and then I'll stay for a long weekend just to go and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, I always try and do that. Funnily enough, it started to pick up again.
Traveling.
Obviously with the COVID pandemic, yeah, that stopped.
Mm.
I used to travel a lot, but since that kind of subsided, especially nowadays, a lot more face-to-face stuff's going on, and people asking to kind of do workshops.
Yeah.
Again, back up rooms and classrooms. So I suspect that's going to be more prevalent
I
in the
I
future.
like that though. I think it's great that we have the opportunity to do things online and, but there are some things that face to face is just necessary and completely different. And for those that can be there in person, there are the added
Yeah,
benefits of that. And I know a lot of companies, and unlike ourselves, we maybe wouldn't work in an office anyway, but where they're getting people to come back into work and shifting from the sort of majority at home to 3 days in the office, 2 days at home, and hearing that fallout and feedback
yeah.
from staff is it's interesting because a lot of people are resistant.
Yeah, people get used to certain modes and their lives get shifted around that mode. So to try and shift people
Mm.
again is not an easy thing to do. Sort of as time has become a precious commodity. I mean, I know in South Africa, I mean, I'm in Johannesburg at the moment. We're moving down to Cape Town at some point in time in the not too distant future. But there's people sit 3, 4 hours a day in traffic
Yeah.
just to get to work. I mean, I really fundamentally disagree with that kind of is it really that necessary to do that to people?
Mm.
But then, there's always, you know, fors and against. for many things. So getting that balance right is going to be a tricky thing, but it seems to be going back to the face-to-face hybrid, like you said.
It's interesting to hear
More
people challenging and pushing back though, and sort of questioning, why do I need to be in the office? Because I understand there are people that maybe are less productive, but yeah, it's kind of working with the staff to understand that, because
Yep.
there needs to be a collaborative approach.
I mean, look at it from a human perspective as well. I mean, from a humanity point of view, I almost find it cruel. I want to sit in a call for 2 hours there and back, just so I can sit at your desk and I can watch you, make sure you're doing stuff. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm sure it'll all wash out.
It will. But so looking ahead then, in terms of SIAM, IT service management, or the broader service management space, where do you see your place in sort of shaping that future?
Yeah, look, I would like to become and still be as involved as I possibly can. I mean, I've been very involved from a very passionate perspective in the SIAM body of knowledge kind of refresh. Of various agile, and so I'm trying to get ahead of, instead of waiting for it to happen and then letting it come to me and say, right, how do I help people using this stuff? I'm trying to get ahead of it and go, let me get involved in shaping how this stuff is put together. That's the shift I was talking about. I very much want to be involved as much as possible in shaping certain methods and frameworks, and even being ambassadors for some of them. Like I am with SIAM. Design thinking is another one that I'm very passionate about. Experience management, like I said. So just getting ahead of these things and helping shape how they are compiled and put forward and made available to people to take advantage of, and just to add value. That's really what it is for me, Steph. Ultimately, it's, do I make a difference to whoever I'm doing something for, whether it be on a personal level or a professional level? And hopefully, you know, the answer is mostly yes, you do. Then, it makes my life more fulfilling by a long
I
way.
like that
So,
approach. We could
yeah,
do.
so it's not
I was gonna say.
it's not about me at all.
I was gonna say we could do more with Maureen Clark though. So I think it is about you, but it is a nice way of thinking. But getting all reflective then, and thinking about that before we wrap up. If you look back then, so back to that young Ian Clark starting out, and have you got any sort of advice that you maybe would have given to yourself, and things that you may have done differently?
Yeah, I think, looking back, hindsight is extremely powerful. It's probably the most powerful thing, actually, because when you're in it at the moment, you don't really resonate with it. You don't really think about it too much. But when you look back on things, you kind of, Um, so the big things for me is getting, help people is a big thing for me. I would not be here doing what I do if it wasn't for people like Peter Hewitt, Tony Price, and the guys I mentioned earlier. They purposefully took an interest in me, and I think they came from a place of compassion, actually, more than anything. And that's certainly something I've learned, that, always people have got enough going on in their lives, good and bad, so just be the person who takes an interest in them and their struggles and what they're trying to achieve, and help wherever you can. So come from a place of compassion is always, a kind of a grounding principle, really. Always take an interest and learn. I've mentioned that already. The minute you sit around thinking that, I've got this waxed, or, I know I pretty much know what I'm doing. Yeah. You're kind of on the back end of where you should be. So always take an interest and learn it, about things and how things get done, to try and help people and companies be better. So yeah, compassion, learn, help people. I kind of think if you come from that serving side, then the universe just takes care of the rest, actually.
Oh, I like that. That's nice. But
Oh,
but so before we wrap up then, is there anything else you want to share? I love that you've left us with some reflective moments there to think on.
no, not really. I think you're still enjoying everything. I hope everybody I interact with, you know, feels the same about their interactions with me and what they do. It's very sad for me that people have to kind of do things that they maybe don't potentially enjoy doing and love doing. And I think there are many people out there who do have to do that. And it's very sad for me. But, I always try and encourage people to, do what you love. And I think the final thing is it's okay to not know what you want to do. It really is. I mean, we're all working it out as we go along most of the time anyway. So don't be afraid to try things and get involved in things. And, eventually something will come across your path that really does resonate with you and you get interested in. So just let it happen.
Absolutely. And at any
Don't try and
age.
force it. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. But I think even more so, I mean, I've got young girls. I've got twin girls, actually, 21 years old now. And it's not easy for these kids to try and work their way in through this world and what they want to do. And a lot of them are pressured to know what you want to do at a very young age. And everything gets shaped around that, which is fundamentally flawed, in my opinion. But so yeah, you know what? It's okay to not know.
Yeah.
So just go with it, take an interest in stuff, try things, and eventually you'll come across something you love doing.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ian, for sharing your story
Pleasure.
with us today. It's clear that it's shaped not just who you are, but the work that you do, the people that you come into contact with, and like you said, the value you hope to be bringing to them and the wider network. So, to our listeners, if this conversation has resonated with you or sparked something in you or reminded you of your own story, we'd love to hear from you. You can find the full SIAM and Action series on the YouTube channel or inside the Scopus and SIAM community. But until next time, take care, stay curious, and continue shaping the future.
Thank you, Steph.
Thank you.